I'm Darius, and I'll be focusing on teenage mass hysteria and the supernatural elements of The Falling in comparison to Picnic at Hanging Rock. I'll be analysing how certain characters and landscapes have hypnotic meanings that are echoed in specific scenes. These can be common areas for many coming-of-age films, but Carol Morley's drama handles these themes with a strangeness that makes them seem new.
Hi, I'm Tom, and I'm going to be discussing how the similarities between Abby and Lydia's relationship in Carol Morley's The Falling and Miranda and Sarah's relationship from Peter Weir's Picnic at Hanging Rock can help us further understand the characters. I will also be talking about the similarities between Abby and Lydia's tree and the Hanging Rock, and how some of the characters from The Falling change in reaction to the loss of Abby.
When asked about what films influenced The Falling, Carol Morley brought up Picnic at Hanging Rock, saying, "We weren't trying to mimic it, but we did want to embrace it as a film and acknowledge it within ours." Evidence of this can be seen in the portrayal of the main characters. Abby and Miranda are blonde and angelic, whilst possessing an ominous tone. Lydia and Sarah, however, tend to be dark and forbidding in their own right.
Both films show the characters in a similar fashion, emphasising their sexuality with close-up shots of Miranda's legs, constant reminders of Abby's recent sexual acts, close panning shots of their blonde hair symbolising their sexual prominence and perceived innocence. Both are also described as angels in the films, which cements this perception of innocence within them both. The tree from The Falling and the rock from Picnic at Hanging Rock both represent natural occurrences and objects within the world that show supernatural qualities, and both have a prominent effect within their films that project a feeling of otherworldliness.
For an outbreak to happen, there is usually a trigger, some kind of stress factor. In this case, it's the death of Abby and the disappearance of Miranda that kickstarts the narratives. Miranda's disappearance at the Hanging Rock is slowly built up with an overwhelming orchestral score, and there is a focus on emphasising the size and power of the rock as it literally overshadows the white-dressed girls, including shots looking down on the girls from the perspective of the rock and slowly paced panning shots looking up at it.
The rock from Picnic at Hanging Rock has an eerie feel to it, and because it's often shown in high-angle shots, it feels that the rock is a monumental figure, watching over both the characters within the film and the audience watching.
The girls collapse under the rock and the jarring progressive music begins. When they simultaneously wake up, the girls ignore Edith and walk in a single-filed line until they fade into a crack between the rocks. It is almost as if they've been possessed by the rock. The scene ends with Edith running away screaming in a high-angled slow-motion shot to heighten the drama.
The rock symbolises the girls' oppression and the patriarchal society that objectifies them.
Episodes of mass hysteria often break out in factories, hospitals, and even army barracks, but the overwhelming majority of reported cases are in schools. Morley has described mass hysteria as a powerful group activity, and it shows to be one in The Falling. It works as a kind of rebellion for Lydia and her classmates. Embodying their teachers' worst nightmares about teenage hormones, the girls often faint at the most inconvenient moments. For example, when Lydia walks up to her headmistresses and collapses to the ground in the film's swooning climax, doctors are brought in to try and cure them. Lydia persuades the other girls not to take their medicine.
He's prescribed tranquilizers for all of us.
They don't seem to want to believe we're ill. My advice? Don't take the pills.
Abby Mortimer and Lydia Lamont in Carol Morley's The Falling have an extremely close relationship. They share with each other their deepest thoughts and feelings. It becomes apparent from early on in the film that there is a love in their relationship, perhaps more so from Lydia than from Abby.
Even after Abby's death, her character is still entirely in the film. Lydia tries revitalising her spirit by engaging a relationship with her brother Kenneth, performing acts on other girls as Abby once did, and going to the places where the two of them shared memories. Lydia mimics Abby's subtle symptoms, and this seems like an attempt by Lydia to reach out to the friends she has lost. Another student, Susie, took this a step further and changed her appearance to look like Abby.
Susan takes on a lot of Abby's characteristics. She mimics the way Abby wore her hair, her clothing, and eventually has a thing, as she calls it, with Kenneth. During our short moments as viewers with Abby, her and Susan don't seem to be especially close friends, so I don't think that she is mimicking her out of grief in an attempt to somehow keep Abby close and connect with her. I think that either she does it as she idolised Abby, and now that she's gone, Susan can take her social place as the pretty popular girl, or that Susan mimics Abby unknowingly and unconsciously, like Abby is haunting everyone through their hysterical fainting and through Susan.
When other students start fainting, Morley has included subliminal messages for only a single frame or two, and these often include stills of Abby lingering. They tell their own story.
The tree from the falling is a symbol of Abby and Lydia's relationship, as they both engraved their initials into the bark, an everlasting symbol of their relationship as long as the tree stands. In the falling, the tree has an ethereal quality to it because of the way it's shown throughout the film, with disorienting camera movements and unnatural soundscapes that echo past events. According to Kenneth, the tree is on a ley line. Ley lines are spiritual or mystical alignments of landforms, so this information brought in by Kenneth reinforces the fact that the hysterical fainting by the girls could be caused by something unexplainable to science and to the rational.
Bliss. I feel it. I feel it all.
Crazy witches!
Lydia often reverts back to the tree where Abby and her carved their initials into an oak tree on their school ground. Throughout the film, there are hints at a supernatural connection between Abby and the tree. The two often cross-dissolve over one another.
Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life's star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar.
There are often prolonged montages of the tree, whilst we see the various ways the characters are dealing with Abby's death.
Abby's dead.
One of the teachers even chooses to mourn Abby by the trees, and the girls will gather around it and sing. The film's conclusion takes place here as Lydia now wants to be free, as she screams Abby's name.
Miranda and Sarah in Peter Weir's Picnic at Hanging Rock have a very similar relationship to Abby and Lydia's, in the way that they also seem to share a love for each other, talking about how they would like to visit Miranda's home together. But Miranda also says, "You must learn to love another, as I will be gone soon." Lydia and Sarah also have similar qualities. Both are brown-haired, inferior in terms of sexual prominence, and both seem to lean on their blonde counterparts for support. Sarah has no direct family contact, and although that Lydia lives with her brother and mother, both treat her as an outsider and neglect her emotional needs as a daughter and as a child. Throughout their stories, both get excluded from their peers. Sarah gets removed from extracurricular activities and later being removed from the school. Lydia becomes isolated at the school and also gets expelled. They both fall apart mentally before the end of the film, before making their final fall, in which Sarah kills herself because of her fear of returning to an orphanage, and Lydia jumps from her and Abby's tree, possibly a leap of faith that would bring her closer to Abby and bring closure to her grief.
The Falling explores the idea that the fainting is all about denied or displaced sexuality, as this is the explanation traditionally offered for hysterical outbreaks. It could be that the Falling is about more than sexuality. It could be about these teenagers' access to a kind of creativity that their troubled background and education has not prepared them for. One of the incidents happens when they are reading from the New Testament, and it begins to have a dreamy, ecstatic quality that no one present can seem to understand.
At the beginning of The Falling, Lydia and Kenneth's relationship is not a loving one. Like Eileen, Lydia's mum, Kenneth shows no connection to Lydia, calling her crazy face. After Abby's death, however, they seem to connect with each other through their grief. Kenneth begins to show a caring nature towards his sister, and Lydia actively spends more time with him. The fact that Kenneth collected strands of Abby's hair, a symbol of her beauty and purity, shows that he truly mourns for her loss. And because of Kenneth's sexual activity with Abby and the fact that Lydia and Kenneth never acted like family towards each other previously, an incestuous relationship developed in an attempt to connect with their lost love.
There are layered images of Lydia's fingers picking holes in the wall of the girls' bathroom, or clawing at the trunk of the oak tree as she struggles to maintain a sense of her immediate reality. Lydia's final breakdown sees her taking this concept to a literal extreme, throwing herself against and from the tree, shouting Abby's name in the dark, proclaiming herself finally free and conscious.